D&D 5th edition has been the undisputed most popular TTRPG in the West for the better part of a decade now. However, in recent months, many have expressed a desire to maybe try out new games, be it because they just want a change of pace, because it didn't quite jive with them, or, well, other reasons. In fact, there are thousands of different games covering all sorts of niches and genres. Needless to say, this selection can make one's head spin, and some people just want another fantasy RPG in the vein of 5e. Fret not, because you have come to the right place. Sword World is one of the most popular TTRPGs in Japan, going strong since the early 90s. Its latest edition, Sword World 2.5, has beaten both Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons in popularity over their 4 years, and not for lack of competition. Unlike the West, where Dungeons & Dragons has dominated the majority of the hobby for a long time, Japan has long since had a very diverse TTRPG scene. Sword World, nonetheless, has remained one of the top sellers for many years. Sword World 2.5 is a high fantasy RPG with a dash of science fiction splashed in, similar to the Eberron setting of Dungeons & Dragons fame. Its setting, Raixia, features your typical fare of knights and wizards, swords and magic, but also more advanced technologies like motorcycles, war machines, and guns powered by magic. Mechanically speaking, it is less complex than 5e while featuring very deep and engaging gameplay. Its class system and character progression system are less restrictive and offer a huge variety of character options. Sword World 2.5 is backward compatible with all the 2.0 content and thus enjoyed content support since 2008. There is a small but dedicated English-speaking fanbase gathered around the Sword World translation project, creating homebrew, tools, and other material to enhance your play experience. Sword World is somewhat of a distant cousin to Dungeons & Dragons and features some similar ideas and mechanics. However, they are very different systems. The most immediate difference would obviously be the dice system. Sword World is entirely played using 2 6-sided dice. No other dice are needed. Skill checks are done similarly to 5e, just using 2d6 instead of a d20. You would then add the appropriate skill proficiencies and ability modifiers, just like you would in 5e. However, this brings us to the most striking difference between the two: how levels, skill proficiencies, and classes are handled. In 5e, characters typically stick to one class or perhaps add a few levels of another class for a specific ability. In Sword World, however, most characters acquire a plethora of classes throughout their careers. Instead of using EXP to raise your character level, which in turn you use to advance a class in level, Sword World does it the other way around. You spend EXP to level up individual classes. Your character level, or adventurer level as it is called in Sword World, is determined by your highest class level. Just like in 5e, classes can be thought of as packages of skill proficiencies and feats. However, Sword World classes are more focused than 5e classes. For example, a fighter would only have proficiencies and combat feats to help them fight, while a sorcerer would only have proficiencies for spellcasting and their spells. Unlike 5e, classes in Sword World are not meant to stand on their own. They are designed to be mixed and matched to create your own playstyle. For instance, you can create a Spellblade character by picking up Fighter and Sorcerer. If your character is lacking in some aspect, you can pick up more classes along the way, as there is no limit to the number of classes you can have. With enough EXP, you could potentially advance all available classes to their max level. This way, there are many impactful choices you can make throughout your character's lifetime. There are rarely wrong answers in what classes you should level up, as the power gap between characters with roughly the same amount of EXP is very small, even if they have an adventurer level or 2 of difference. Side note, As you may know, there is this trend in 5e. Players often only play between the 3rd and 10th level because most players feel like their characters are underdeveloped below the 3rd level and become too strong to be challenged by the DM by the 10th level. From our own experience, Sword World doesn't have this issue. While you may opt to start at a higher level, starting from the 1st level is fun, as is playing at higher levels. For more information on what classes are available, what they are capable of, as well as what some of the common combinations are, check out our class guide video. In Sword World, you can get a proficiency bonus through your class, just like in 5e. However, your classes give you their level as your proficiency bonus toward all the class-related skills. This means that whenever you would add the class level of an appropriate class to your skill check. In fact, skills are not really mentioned on the character sheet at all. Instead, it shows you what to roll for common skill checks in so-called check packages. This may feel odd at first. However, it allows for some extraordinary flexibility and enables interesting roleplay opportunities. There may be situations where your Dungeon Master, or Game Master as it is called in Sword World, can't find an appropriate skill in the book. They can instead simply use a class that is appropriate for such a task. If you encounter Magi-Tech constructs guarding a relic, you can try to disable the defense systems by using Artificer and your intelligence modifier. To determine from where the assassin shot the king, you can utilize your knowledge as a marksman for this task. In Sword World, there are relatively few class-specific feats, but they can have a significant impact. Instead of gaining new feats specific to your class at every other class level, like in 5e, everyone gains a new combat feat at every other adventurer level. These combat feats can really shake up combat, and are a key component in fleshing out your character's capabilities. Due to the scarcity of class-exclusive feats, you have many options to further refine your play style. In Sword World, the linear fighter quadratic wizard problem is less of an issue. Marshals and casters have different strengths and weaknesses. Marshals are great at mobility, tanking, and dispatching unarmored targets but struggle against spell bombardments and highly armored foes. Casters lack mobility and defensive abilities but excel at dealing with groups of enemies and highly armored targets. There is a counterbalance where marshals are weak against casters, and casters are weak against marshals. Some 5e players also have a problem with the variety of options available to marshals when compared to casters. While there is a clear gap in the variety of abilities a marshal and a spellcaster have access to in Sword World, this never becomes a big issue. Essentially, anyone can gain access to spells and other abilities by simply picking up another class. There are many other differences in combat, for example, but this video is only here to provide an overview. If you are curious, you may want to check out our other videos. It is possible to play in a different setting, if you so choose, but
looking for a rich, detailed world to set your Sword World 2.5 campaigns in? Look no further than Raxia. With a long and storied history, Raxia boasts several detailed civilizations, each with its own unique cultures and traditions. Whether you're exploring the bustling city-state of Leos or delving into the mysterious ruins of the ancient Alminus Kingdom, Raxia has something for you. But Raxia isn't just about its history and culture. The world is full of unique conflicts that add depth to your campaigns, for example, the conflict between the humanoid races and the barbarous or the demons pouring out of the abyss. It's not just a conflict between good and evil, but rather a battle between order and chaos, society versus anarchy, which makes them a fleshed-out and nuanced antagonistic force. We made a whole video on that particular topic. And let's not forget about the magic systems in Raxia. With Magitech and arcane magic, the world has a unique flavor that only deepens the experience. The different magic systems bring the rich setting to life with their own flavor. So why settle for a generic fantasy setting when you can explore the rich, detailed world of Raxia? Give it a chance and see for yourself why it's the perfect setting for your next Sword World 2.5 adventure.
What she said? Moving on. While there are no specific rules for transferring characters, you can easily recreate most of your 5e characters in Sword World. Of course, they won't have the same spells and abilities, perhaps, but as a lot of races in Dungeons and Dragons have a Sword World equivalent, it should be easy enough to create your old character in this new system. To start your journey into Rexia, you can use the Sword World 2.5 Core Rulebook 1, which includes all the rules and materials necessary to play from the 1st to the 6th level. Additionally, it has an introductory adventure that can help kickstart your new campaign set in Rexia. While Core Rulebooks 2 and 3 introduce mostly optional rules and lore, as well as more races, classes, monsters, and materials needed to play from 7th to 10th level for Core Rulebook 2 and 11th to 15th level for Core Rulebook 3, they aren't strictly necessary to play. To get a feel for the system and the world, Core Rulebook 1 is more than enough. Despite their intimidating page counts, the core rulebooks are a fairly light read. They were originally released in Japan in bunko format, which is about the size of a postcard. Each page is less densely packed than what you might expect from Western games. The books also feature copious amounts of examples and explanations primarily geared towards beginners, so even if this is the first game you've ever picked up, you'll be fine. And, as previously mentioned, you only need the first book to get started. If you feel like something is missing, you can always check the other core books, as well as the 2.0 books. Since 2.5 is backward compatible, there is a lot of content that could be just what you need. While there is no official translation of Sword World, the Sword World Translation Project has been hard at work to bring this amazing game to English-speaking fans of TTRPGs. As of the recording of this video, 6 of the major 2.5 books have been fully translated. These are all 3 2.5 core rulebooks, the Character Building Book Supplement, the Epic Treasury Supplement, and the Magus Arts Supplement. Additionally, roughly 60% of the 2.0 main library is also available in English. More books are sure to come in the future, so stay tuned. It is our mission to bring as close a complete translation as possible to Western players. We love this game with a passion and want to share that passion with the rest of the world. Feel free to check our subreddit or Discord server for more info about the system and our translation. Links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. The Sword World Translation Project is a fan-based, non-profit translation. Sword World is owned by Group SNE. Please support the official release. All the Sword World books in Japanese can be found on Bookwalker, links in the description below.